In the summer of 2022, we visited the Isle of Lewis, a 3-hour ferry ride off the coast of Scotland. The purpose of our visit was to visit the beautiful stone circles at Callanish. On the same trip, we also visited a lesser-known collection of megalithic sites on a lesser-known island further south in the waters around Scotland.
So there's been a lot of documentation and research done on the Orkney Islands in Scotland over the last sort of 6-7 years. We even went there in 2013 and videoed Brodgar Ring and Skara Brae and some of the amazing sites they found there. But at some of the other Scottish islands around the coast, there were also some really significant and fascinating sites. We're at one now. This is called the Machrie Stone Circle Complex. There are numerous sites actually all in this area here. I think there's 11 stone circles, there's some cairns, some standing stones, all within sort of like a couple of kilometres really. We're at Machrie Stone Circle 2. Now it doesn't really look like much of a stone circle at the minute. There's 3 massive stones standing behind me, but you also have the stumps and the remains of some stones as well. There's these ones in front of me, and then there's a couple over here which are said to be millstones. And this one over there is quite circular. There are 2 different types of stone actually that they've used to build these stone circles. These ones behind me are red sandstone, and there are other circles as well that are made out of the grey granite. And they think that that is related to the fact that there was different eras where they were doing building here. Now they originally started, there's 2 stone circles just over there, about 50 metres. I think that's number 1 and number 11. And they think that that's where they originally started building. They started with some timber henges. So these are massive, these ones. You can see this one I think is, I'm 1.8 metres, so this one's got to be probably about 4.5, I would think. This side here, this one really reminds me of Long Meg because of the colour of it, the red nature to it, and also there's a really flat surface here which suggests that maybe this was cut and shaped on purpose. Yeah, beautiful stones. We'll have a look at number 3. You might be able to see number 3. There's only 1 stone remaining off there in the distance, but we'll have a look at that in a minute, and there are tons of stumps and little mounds where we think there are stones underneath. They did some excavating here. They found 2 stone cists, which are basically like holes that are lined in stone, which they think that they might have placed bodies in. I don't think they actually found any there. They did find a ceramic pot that had the cremated remains of, I think it was a human, and a flint as well, a flint stone that they think that they might have used to start the fire. Lots of probablys and mights about this site. There's been a decent amount of research and excavation done here though. In the, I think 77 they started, but in the late 70s they were doing quite a lot of here. So beautiful area. This is a really lovely island, Isle of Arran. You've probably never heard of it. I hadn't really heard of it until I started researching the trip that we're doing. I think it's the 7th biggest island in Scotland or something. It's not the most massive, but it's very peaceful. We've been camping here for a few days and it's really lovely. A population of about 5,000 people and great for wild camping and getting a bit of peace and quiet. But let's go and have a look at this one over here. So this one I think is number 11. And just over there you'll be able to see I think that was number 1. And you can see the difference. These are just little grey granite boulders. I think the tallest is, well, that one over there is probably about 1 metre tall or something. And those ones over there are even smaller. I think there's 12 blocks in here and sort of 8 or 9 and that little one over there. And yeah, the largest stone is probably this one. maybe that one, and these will probably weigh like half a ton or something like that. But this is where they found holes, and that's where they think they had timber henges, which are the oldest part of this whole complex. They think it was that they originally came here and started building these wooden henges, and then they built the stone circles after that. And I think they think that the red ones are first and then the grey ones came. But there's been a lot of different eras of building going on in this area. They even found, for example, when they excavated here, they found plough marks as well. So there was a lot of farming going on and people living in this area for a long period of time, I think. Really cool. This is as far east as this site goes, so we're going to start heading back in that direction. All right, so this is Machrie Moor Stone Circle 3. There's only one left, actually. This massive sandstone, red sandstone stone again. I think this is, again, probably about 4.5 meters tall. You can see how much erosion there is on there. Now, this is probably indicative of how old it is, but also how easily these stones erode, this type of stone. We are exposed to hell of a lot of wind. It's been very windy the few times we've come here, so there's going to be a lot of erosive forces on this. So these are the remains of the stones. You can see just the stumps. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them left here. This one over on that side is completely buried. They've dug the earth away. It's only about sort of an inch under the surface of the earth, and we think that these are probably, a lot of these little mounds here are probably also some stumps under here as well. So I think they said that there was 8 or 9 stones originally at this stone circle. This one here as well, heavily eroded. You can see these massive grooves running through this stone here. So when I come to these sites, I like to draw links to other sites around the world that I've been to quite a lot now. And this one here in particular reminds me of my Swedish film, Megaliths in Sweden. We saw a lot of this shaped rock, like it looks like a gun turret actually, and we saw that at quite a lot of the sites there. So there's a link to Sweden, links to Long Meg and her daughters in the north of England, south of here. Basically, Long Meg is a red sandstone with a stone circle of grey boulder-like rocks next to it. So very similar to what we're seeing here on the Isle of Arran. All right, so this is stone circle number 5. Between 2 and 3 over there, we passed stone circle 4, which has only got 4 stones. Again, these small grey granite boulders. Yeah, this is number 5, also known as Fingal's Cauldron. And that's due to the legends associated with this site. Now you can see it's basically 2 stone circles, so you've got 2 layers of it, concentric stone circles, so one within another. It's also incorporated into a kind of a mound. Now I've seen that in very few places around the world actually. There was some sites in the south of Spain where the circles were kind of built into a mound, but you don't see this very often. But yeah, Fingal's Cauldron, and that is due to the legend. There's a giant once lived here, and the legend says that he used to put his cauldron on these central stones, and he also had a dog, and there's a hole on one of those stones over there, and this is said to be where he tied his dog up. The other thing is, as well as this hole is possibly associated with a fairy or a brownie. So I didn't even know that there was a term brownie associated with fairies, but apparently you're supposed to pour milk through this hole and then you please this fairy and she does whatever she does, I guess. But yeah, so now what we're going to do is we're going to walk to stone circle, I think it's number 10, which is 1 kilometre in that direction. And as we walk along there, there's more remains. There's a stone on top of a hill. There's what looks like a former chamber, 2 stones in an L shape. And then there's a group of another 3 stones, which was another circle.
The inner circle consists of 8 round top granite blocks around 1.2 metres high, and the outer circle 15 slightly smaller blocks. This is the only circle with concentric rings of stone at this location, which is a rare type of stone structure not seen at many places around the world. Stone Circle 5 highlights how mysterious this complex is, and why Machrie Moor is regarded as such an important prehistoric site, with different types of stone used, a range of different types of structure, all built during different eras in a barren area inhabited by humans for thousands of years. And only a tiny part of this moor has been excavated, so it is highly likely that there are many other archaeological remains beneath and between the visible sites. The sites on the way to circle number 10 fill in the gaps in the numbering system. The two touching upright stone slabs at right angles are known as Machrie Moor 6 and thought to be the remains of a chambered cairn or dolmen, which was largely destroyed when the track was built. The 1.6 metre tall stone on the hilltop is Machrie Moor 7, and Machrie Moor 8 consists nowadays of a 1.8 metre tall stone with several smaller stones around its base, which is believed to have been a 20 metre by 16 metre chambered cairn, like those seen all over Europe. Machrie Moor 9 is thought to have been a single standing stone, but no obvious remains of this have been found, which leads us to our final site on the moor, Machrie Moor 10.
Alright, okay, so here we are at the last of the stone circles. The one on the very west is close to the car park. There's not much to say about this really. There's been a lot of robbing of stones going on, and I think they built a trackway through this one or something. It's incorporated into a kind of mound again, like the last one, the concentric circles that we saw. It's the largest. I think it's probably about 30 meters across or something. It looks almost oval, in fact. So probably 35 meters on the longest side of it. It looks like there's a couple of entrance stones over here, maybe portal stones. So that reminds me of some of the sites I saw in Sweden. But yeah, this is the last of them. There's some other sites around the island. So there's two chambered tombs up in the hills called Giants' Graves. So a link to the legend of the giants there again. And there's one more site on the way to the ferry that we're going to visit, which is right on the coast there, which looks kind of interesting. But for Machrie Moor, this is all of the sites that we're going to do today.
People lived and farmed in this area and apparently spent a vast amount of effort creating sites associated with ceremonial activities. The burials were added during more recent years, so the discovery of these remains doesn't necessarily tell us why these structures were originally built, and leaves us to consider other reasons for their construction. One possibility is that they were positioned to map the area or act as a calendar, like so many megalithic sites around the world that use solar and lunar alignments to show certain times of the year. A group of researchers have investigated the possibility of alignments at the location and have made some interesting observations. If you stand at the centre of Circle 5 and look towards the centre of Circle 3, it leads directly to Machrie Glen, a valley to the northeast. They state on their website that at the summer solstice, a notch on the skyline where Machrie Moor Glen divides into two steep-sided valleys is intersected by the sun at sunrise. They investigated but found no alignments between circles 2 and 4, but did find possible deliberate positioning of the elliptical circle 11. It looks like the alignments are not exact, sometimes being several days out, but their work certainly seems to suggest further investigation is deserved. The island is covered in structures, lots of standing stones and very dilapidated looking remains, but we only had time to stop off at one more site. The site of Arran was situated in a beautiful location overlooking the stretch of water between the island and the mainland. There are 14 large stones remaining, but it is only complete on one side, so there were likely a lot more when it was constructed. The site is a combination of a stone circle and a cairn, and according to the sign it is unclear which was built first. There have been no excavations at this site, but there are stories of a cist in the centre and potential human remains, possibly looking like this artist's impression visible on the sign. The site has been dated between 3,200 and 4,000 years old, so could have been built at a similar time to the timber circles found on Machrie Moor. There are 3 types of stone at this site: the grey granite, the red sandstone, and one that looks like a kind of conglomerate of smaller materials bonded together. Again, the difference in the amount of erosion between the stones was clear, i.e. much more erosion on the red stone compared to the grey. Some of the stones also seem to have been finished off to a point, a feature seen at many stone sites we have visited around the world. The structure also has smaller stones making up the mound, a mound that is not exactly circular, with a bump or protrusion on one side made up of these smaller stones. When you visit these sites set in such a beautiful location, The peace and serenity allows your imagination to ponder what people would have done in their day-to-day lives and question what inspired them to build such structures. After this trip, I took the van on tour to the north of Europe, visiting 2 huge dolmen that claim to be the largest in France, as well as numerous others. I then filmed some sights in Belgium before driving to Denmark to visit some of the amazing structures found scattered all over the country.